Hello, friends. My name is Jason Valindi. I'm one of the co-pastors here at Keller United Methodist Church. I want to take just a minute to introduce to you a fellow member at Keller United Methodist Church, my friend, and maybe you know her. This is Tanya Minton-Maxon.
Hi, friends.
And Tanya has a ministry that I want to talk with you a little bit about because it's been formative in my life, and I think that it would be informative for many of our other fellow members as well. And that is the ministry of spiritual direction.
Yes, it's wonderful.
So before we get into that,
Okay.
Tanya, would you be willing to share, just so that we kind of know, how long have you been here at Keller Church, and what brings you here?
So we have been members here for about 5 years.
Oh, okay.
And I've been here with my family, and my daughter finished high school and has graduated and kind of did that part of her life here
Cool.
at Keller UMC. And this church has just been a really big part of our lives. So I'm really happy that we're here, and I'm really excited to get to share this ministry with the whole congregation.
Well, so let's actually address that question, the elephant in the room. I said spiritual direction, and
Yes.
you know what that means, and I know what that means.
Yes.
But maybe not everybody knows what spiritual direction means. That actually sounds a little archaic
does.
because it's not language that we use all of the time, spiritual direction. And so maybe it would be helpful for all of us. How do you define spiritual direction and what it is?
Well, it's a wonderful opportunity to sit with a friend, a companion, a spiritual director, and reflect on your relationship with God. It is a time where you look at your daily life and God's presence within it, and it's with somebody who's trained to listen deeply for the breath of God. It's a gift that you can give to yourself.
Yeah, I think Pastor Esty one time talked about listening with the ears of the heart.
Oh, that's it. Yes.
Yeah, and someone who actually, so there is training. I mean, that's one of the things that is notable about spiritual direction, is that it's not just a buddy.
Yes.
It's an actual trained process that you've gone through. What was or is that training again?
So there is several different programs in the area. I went to a 3-year program at SMU.
Oh, okay.
And I continue to do continuing education for my own growth, and I also regularly see my own spiritual director.
Oh, you have a spiritual director as well.
I do, yes.
I have had a spiritual director for some years now, and when we've moved from one location to another, or depending on different ages and stages of my life, I've noticed that I've been called to maybe a different spiritual director, and so there's some fluidity in those relationships, depending on the season of life, right? And so have you had the same spiritual director for a while now?
I have.
That's cool.
I have been working with her for about 4 years now.
Oh, wow.
And she's wonderful.
That's very cool.
Yes.
That's very cool. So now you have experienced spiritual direction.
Yes.
You have provided spiritual direction. For those of us who are learning about this, it's not a friend, it's a guide. So when we sit and you're listening kind of with the ears of your heart, what are we doing? What is a session?
Right.
What is that? What do we do?
So my role as a spiritual director is to, while someone is talking about their daily life, processing through that, I listen deeply, and I encourage. I sometimes challenge, and I always pray with that person, all in an effort so that they can really tone and hone in on where God's movement is.
Yeah.
These spiritual direction sessions are always confidential.
Right.
Even with whom I'm meeting with is confidential.
Yes.
Lately, I've been doing a lot of Zoom and Facebook calls because of the time. So,
yeah, I've noticed in my own experiences with a spiritual director how both encouraging and comforting and yet challenging and provocative they can be when I share. Like for instance, I was working with my spiritual director on some stuff, talking about how good my spiritual disciplines were doing. I was praying and I was fasting and I was doing all this stuff. I was feeling really proud of myself.
Doing all the things.
And I thought, this is what I should be doing. And then my spiritual director said, Jason, that's really cool. That's really great. I'm glad that that your knees are dirty, as it were, right?
Yes.
With the prayer and that's great. How dirty are your hands?
Mm-hmm.
And the question was really to invite me to consider all of the soul work that I'd been doing. I had maybe
Yes.
neglected actually serving my neighbor.
Oh.
And so it led me to listen. That was a whole series of conversations at that point to say, well, now what is God calling me to do in this season? And that proved to be a very powerful metaphor that I would not have come up with on my own at all.
Right.
But my spiritual director was able to listen acutely.
Mm-hmm.
And then
And give you this beautiful invitation.
and a little nudge.
Yes.
I didn't feel like, it was just like, it felt revelatory. And so I don't know if that's how you've experienced as well, but that's been a huge part of my life are those nudges from my spiritual director.
Well, it really is. Spiritual direction is for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not just for the people who are United Methodists or people
Right.
who are Christians. It's really for everyone.
Yeah.
It's for pastors. It's for ordinary lay people like myself. It's for people who work in the church.
Yeah.
It's really for everyone.
Right.
And as a trained spiritual director, I can work with anyone.
Well, and do you have to be a certain age? I mean, is there, like I kept talking about ages and stages earlier with my own formation. I mean, is there an ideal time to engage with a spiritual director? Like I just graduated high school, or I'm looking for a job, or, I mean, when would be a good time to seek out spiritual direction?
It really any time.
Yeah.
Whenever you
Okay.
want to do some reflecting on your relationship with God,
Yep.
any time is for that. I've worked with teenagers. I've worked
wow.
with adults. I've worked with seniors.
Everybody in between.
Everybody in between.
That's cool.
Uh-huh.
So for others who might be beginning to get a grasp of what this is, how does spiritual direction differ from counseling?
That's actually a really good question. So in counseling, we're talking about mental and emotional health.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
spiritual direction, we're talking about spiritual
Right.
health.
Right.
In counseling, you're talking about a problem. It's problem-centered.
Right. Yeah. When I still go see my counselor, they usually start by saying, how's it going? What's wrong? I mean, it's nicer than that, but that's generally where
Yes.
we start, right?
Yes, and so
Yeah.
spiritual direction is growth-centered.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Counseling is this healer, patient, giving of information.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Spiritual direction is two people who are together looking for the movement of God.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
That's cool.
So counseling is about a specific aspect of one's life.
Yeah.
So that problem, here's that problem in that life. Spiritual direction is holistic.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
addressing the whole body,
Yeah.
the whole person.
I've experienced that myself. Yeah.
Yes. So here's the big thing. In counseling,
Right.
science is the authority.
I see. Okay.
Spiritual direction,
Not science is the authority.
God is
Oh,
the
right,
authority,
right.
right?
You would think I would know that. Right. Yes. Yeah.
But-
yes. Absolutely.
There's definitely a very clear lane there.
Yeah, I have a counselor and a spiritual director,
Oh, good.
and I have noticed that there are times where if there was a Venn diagram, that there is some overlap, usually around my life experiences, but both of my counselor and my spiritual director really address those experiences really from completely different perspectives and angles, and are actually getting at a different component. I have found both of those relationships to be incredibly invaluable. And so, yes, this makes a lot of sense to me. I hadn't thought about it in terms of the science being the primary authority here. As we kind of come to our kind of close here,
Yes.
I just was curious to know, if you have had a spiritual direction, what have you gained from it?
That is a great question. So I have been in spiritual direction and I'm a spiritual director. And the most amazing thing is that in both of those roles, I often walk away from these conversations with just awe and humbleness that I get to be
Yeah.
in the presence of God and
Yeah.
in such a way, it feels a lot like a thin place,
Yeah.
where I can really, I
Yeah.
really see the movement of God.
Yeah.
And how wonderful to get to see how
cool.
God is working in somebody else, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And to have somebody else be able to see in me where God is
Similarly,
working in me.
right,
Yes.
right, yeah, that's very cool. If you don't know what a thin place is, if you don't know about spiritual direction after all of this, if you're curious about all of those things, Tanya,
Yes.
how could people who might be interested or feeling a prick on their heart or maybe listening with the ears of their heart, how could they take the next step? Can they contact you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So reach out to me anyway if whenever we start back with regular worship again.
Sure.
Stop me and ask some questions. I can be emailed, and I think that we're going to put the email link in the comments.
In the comment section there? Great.
Yes,
Very
and
good.
I have a website, a phone number, any of those ways.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yes.
Well, take a look at the show notes there at the bottom. There'll be links. If you're interested to learn more, you can contact Tanya directly. Of course, you can always contact me or Esty or Lauren or Jim, and we also can move in directions to help you in the ways that God is calling you forward. But really, wanted to thank you so much for taking time, at least to listen again with the ears of your heart, that perhaps maybe spiritual direction is something that God might be calling you into in this season of your life. Tanya, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
But more importantly, thank you for the ministry that you have facilitated and the way that you've allowed God to work and continue to work in and through you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amen. Love you
Amen.
guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.